Who here doesn't want any more good in their life? Okay, I'll rephrase the question. Who would welcome more good in their life? Okay, yeah, we got 2 hands going. Yeah, I like that. None of us would say no thanks to more good, would we? I have good news for you. If you ever wonder what God's will for you is, it is all the good that you can receive. I like to put it this way. God's will for you is all the good you can stand. How much good can you stand? And what's really neat is we don't need to earn it. We don't need to perform a certain way or pray a certain way or jump through various religious or philosophical hoops. God's will for us is always, and always has been, all the good we can accommodate in our lives. So the question becomes, why don't I have all the good I'd like? You ever ask yourself that? You don't have to raise your hands. I get it. I have 3 stories for you this morning that are about clearing the way for all of this wonderful good that is just waiting for us. You see, it's there, it's ready and waiting. We just have to get out of the way. Our head has to get out of the way. Our activities have to get out of the way. We need to clear the decks to welcome more of God's good in our life. My first story actually revolves around Unity South in a little bit of an indirect way. A number of years ago, when I was decorating our formal living room, I made a rather significant investment in 2 beautiful crystal lamps. Absolutely gorgeous. They were lovely in the living room for a while. Well, things changed, decor changed, and now those crystal lamps didn't work so well. Well, we wound up putting one in storage, and the other one we rather reluctantly moved to our downstairs casual family room, where it did not fit, but it provided light over in the corner on the end table where we needed light. And frequently, I'd walk by that lamp in the family room, I'd look at it, and I'd think, geez, that's got to get replaced. And occasionally, I'd even get on a mission. I was going to go find the right lamp for that table, and those efforts never bore fruit. Well, we trundled along in life for 2 or 3 years, and at some point, we realized we had a lot of excess stuff, so we staged a garage sale. And with some trepidation, I took the crystal lamp in the family room and the crystal lamp that was in storage, and I put them both in the garage sale. And a lot of people stopped and looked at those lamps and admired them. Nobody bought them. Until the very end of the garage sale, as the day wound down, an Asian lady came. You know, they're good at bartering. I'm not. But she liked those crystal lamps, and she offered me $5 for both of them. The sales tax was more than that. I could not do it. I turned down her offer. So one lamp went back into storage, the other went back on the coffee end table where it didn't fit. Well, that was a fall garage sale, I remember that. And in the spring, here at Unity South, we were staging a garage sale. So my husband Lee and I, that's Mr. Reverend, by the way, if you don't know him. We were at our house gathering up things to donate to the garage sale. And he comes out of our storage space with one crystal lamp and says, well, what should I do with this, honey? And I looked at the lamp he was holding, and I looked at that lamp over there in the family room. I said, oh, just take them both and donate them. I let them go for nothing. Lee brought them here to the garage sale. I was told this was on a Friday. The sale was on Saturday. I heard Sunday morning that one of the congregants here loved those lamps, bought them immediately, made a very nice donation to Unity South, and in the process took them home and just adored them. So I was excited to hear that. But now we had in our family room this dark corner. On Tuesday, I want you to notice the time. We let go of them on Thursday. We donated them on Friday. Sunday they sold. On Tuesday, my cousin calls me. Actually, he's my mother's cousin. He's a generation before mine. And he said, Laurie, you know I've been downsizing for a while, and I've got this lamp. You remembered it was in my bedroom on my desk, and you told me you always loved it, and if I ever got rid of it, you wanted it? I said, no. I had no idea what he was talking about. But he said, well, you said you wanted it, so I want to bring it to you. So we arranged to have lunch on Thursday. He came over for lunch, and he gets out of the car and picks up this big, antique, heavy brass lamp base and carries it into the house and sets it down. Then he goes back to the car and picks up this big, largely green Tiffany and brass shade. You can't put the two parts together and lift it. It's just too heavy. It's gorgeous. And guess where it fit? Perfect in the family room, back in that dark corner. And it was kind of fun because he told me over lunch the story of that lamp. It turns out his grandfather, which was my great-grandfather, was one of those fire and brimstone circuit preachers. And my cousin remembered watching Grandpa Bernruther sitting at his big roll-top desk with that lamp on top, writing his fire and brimstone lessons, sermons. So it was kind of fun to learn the background, and I'm sure glad I didn't exactly follow in Grandpa Bernruther's footsteps. It took a scant week, after literally years of deliberation, for the universe to sweep in and fill that void when I finally said no to what was no longer working. What's going on in your life that maybe once was good, but isn't quite so good now, and you want to make room for more good? Think about it. My second story for you on creating space involves a very good friend, Jill. She and I have known each other for over 20 years. We chat a lot about everything and nothing. And she's told me over the years, and I've met this other woman, she had a friend named Jackie. Well, Jill and Jackie grew up together from grade school, junior high, high school, graduation. They traveled together, took vacations together, had babies at about the same time. These two women did a lot together for many, many years. But Jill had told me some months previous that Jackie had been really acting less than warm, less than cordial, and she wondered what was going on with Jackie. They just hadn't connected like they used to. And then Jill started hearing rumors from mutual friends of ours. It was basically Jackie bad-mouthing Jill, and not only bad-mouthing her, but worse yet, saying things that weren't even true. Well, Jill was understandably a little bit upset about this. And the other thread of the story is Jill's father owns a very nice Rambler in Richfield. Nice 3-bedroom Rambler, full basement, 2 bathrooms. It's a lovely suburban home that Jackie had been renting from him for years. And even through the pandemic and all of the housing business, never once has he raised her rent. But for some reason, for about 4 months, she hadn't gotten around to paying her rent. And Jill's father said, I've called her, and she doesn't return my calls. I've gone to her house, and either she's not home or she won't answer the door, but she's not paying her rent, and I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to evict her. Jill started putting all of this together, these rumors and nasty things that Jackie was saying about her and the way Jackie was basically blowing off her father. So she got together with Jackie. They sat down and had one of those, come to Jesus meetings. And at first, Jill was laying out, I've heard you've said this about me. That's not true. I've heard you told so-and-so that. Why did you say that? That's not true. And what's the deal with my dad? I'm paying your rent. Well, at first, Jackie had all kinds of excuses. Well, that was your fault, and you did this, and, it was everybody else's responsibility. But finally, as the conversation evolved, Jackie rather reluctantly began to take responsibility for her behavior. And by the end of the conversation, Jackie said, yeah, I've got the money. I'll get it to your dad. That's really not a problem. I just haven't gotten around to it, and we'll see where we go from here. Now, Jill went home, and she felt fairly good about this conversation. But she also had some real concerns. I've known Jill for many years, and she has autoimmune issues. When she went through a very painful divorce, she got herself into counseling. She's been doing counseling and therapy for years, and in that process has realized that her dysfunctional upbringing, a very controlling mother and a pretty emotionally absent father, among other factors, had created in her a need to say yes to everybody, whether she really agreed or not. So in her counseling and therapy, she learned to be discerning and to say no to what doesn't serve her, to establish clear boundaries. Well, after this meeting with Jackie, she went home and thought, I've been so upset about this whole thing, and my physical issues have actually gotten worse. That woman is not good for my health. Even though we've been friends for many years, that friendship seems to have run its course. But she said, on reflection, I came to the conclusion I could not continue. So she contacted Jackie, and she was very lovely about it. She told Jackie, we've been through a lot together, we've got a lot of memories, but I'm realizing that continuing a relationship very candidly is not good for my health, so it's time for our roads to diverge. And with that, she put closure on what had been a long friendship. I was talking with her a few weeks later after I knew she'd had this meeting with Jackie. I said, so how are you feeling about all this? And she said, she felt really good about it. And she said, what's really interesting is since I said goodbye to Jackie, my health has improved. My autoimmune symptoms are getting better and better. Do you think it's related? Well, of course it is. When we're engaged in something painful and destructive and negative, that energy plays on our bodies as well as our minds and every other aspect of our lives. She said no to what once had been good but no longer was serving her. And the benefit was improved health, much improved health. The third story I have for clearing the decks, clearing the way for more good to come into your life, comes from Edwene Gaines' book, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Success or Prosperity. I think a lot of you know of Edwene. She's a Unity minister, and she has decided many years ago that her calling was to teach prosperity worldwide. Well, I was revisiting her book a while ago, and she shared a story in that book that I'm going to share with you right now. And it's also about clearing the way for more good to come into one's life. Edwene is a pretty dynamic woman. She's got lots of ideas. She wants to get lots of things done. And she was working with some of her friends and colleagues, and they were going to do this project and that thing and the other thing, and it was just going to be great. And every which way she turned, she ran into a brick wall. Nothing was coming together. The friends that said they would help, oh yeah, we're on board. Well, no, they had other things to do. She got more and more and more frustrated, trying to get things done and getting nowhere, no matter what she did. Edwene finally decided she needed some help. So she sat down with her spiritual advisor and proceeded to tell him at considerable length and in great detail how poorly everything was going, and how all these people let her down, and how nothing was working out, and what on earth was she supposed to do? This beautiful spiritual woman just wasn't getting anywhere. Well, when she finally wound down her tale of woe, her spiritual advisor looked at her and said, Edwene, I have a metaphysical law just for you that you need to start practicing right now. And it goes like this: thou shalt not bitch. Now, if you know Edwene at all, you know she was a little incensed. And she was looking for lots of sympathy and constructive help, and he says, thou shalt not bitch. So she went home a little more disgruntled. But as she sat and thought about his words, and when she finally settled down and took it into meditation, that still small voice said, listen to what he said. Well, she began to pay attention and started to realize that she had really fallen into a habit of being really negative and talking negatively, whining and complaining and bitching. And she was horrified and ashamed at what she started to discover about herself. Well, she made a decision that she was going to change those negative speech habits. And you know, to change a habit, you make a 21-day commitment, right? That's how you change a habit. So she made her 21-day no bitching plan. And her plan was no gossip, never say anything bad about anybody, including herself, be kind, notice good about people, but no more whining and complaining at all. Well, in her book, she describes how for the first week or so, when she wasn't complaining, she didn't have a whole lot to say. That's when it really hit her how much complaining she'd been doing. But then, in place of all the complaints, she began to notice all the good that was all around her, the lovely people that were in her life, the great friendships, the sage spiritual counselor that she had. And she began to nurture an appreciation for all that good. And what she noticed is, when she was whining and complaining, how she just was energetically drained, wiped out. No wonder she couldn't get anything done. But when she shifted her focus to being positive and supportive and complimentary, she was energized. She had lots of energy to do what she wanted to do. And interestingly, while the negative speech drove people away from her, when she shifted to more positive behavior, all those people and more came back to her. Said, Edwene, I want to work with you on that project. Edwene, let's work on this together. Her life totally shifted when she stopped bitching. Interesting. what we put out comes back to us, yes? And what she learned from that is you gotta put God first. Put God first. Think positive, act positive, be positive, because God's will is all good, right? And everything starts to fall into place. Now, how many of you are sitting here this morning thinking, oh, I know what I need to get out of my life? And you may not know right off the top of your head, but maybe in your time of prayer and meditation, something bubbles up and Spirit says, that's not good for you, let it go. I figured out the way to deal with negative, heavy things that didn't serve me in my life is to pay attention to how I reacted. That lamp over there, the crystal lamp that just didn't fit, every time I walked up by it, I'd look at it and I'd roll my eyes. Jill told me every time she got a text from Jackie, she'd cringe, thinking, what now? Edwene figured out that her negative talk produced only negative results. So she decided to put God first and start focusing on the positive to bring more good into her life. Now, most of you raised your hands this morning when I asked who wants more good in your life. So your assignment is when you leave here today, go home and spend some time considering what used to be good but isn't good any longer. And what can you jettison from your life? What can you remove from your thinking? And what can you replace it with by putting God first? The universe abhors a vacuum. So if we want more good in our life, we need to create space for that good to come in. It's waiting for you. Clear the decks and get ready to welcome it. So now, let's move from our head to our heart as we take these thoughts into meditation.